got a big ego, ha ha ha, oh such a big ego.
Welcome to True Sports Talk. Let's let the talk begin. And what we're talking about, Michael Vick back in the NFL. Kinda. Now, because everybody knows by now, because it happened yesterday, Roger Goodell reinstated Mike Vick conditionally. What does that mean? If Mike Vick was to sign with a team today, he could start training camp, he could play the last 2 preseason games, and he could practice during the season. But he will not be able to play any regular season games at this point because Roger Goodell still doesn't know if Vick is going to be suspended some season during the season or not. That's why it's still conditional. Now, by week 6, Goodell said he should make his decision. That means anytime before week 6 or on week 6, he will have the decision on Mike Vick's fate in the NFL. Now, what does this mean for Mike Vick? Mike Vick is in the same predicament he was in before Goodell made this decision, in my opinion. Because teams still don't know if Mike Vick is available during the season. Now, they know they can see how he plays after being in jail for 23 months, being out of football for that span of time. Now, so, what does that mean? Which teams will take a chance on Mike Vick? Now, when I first heard it, I was really excited that Mike Vick will be back in the NFL because he's exciting. People love to watch Michael Vick play because all the plays he can make with his feet, all the things that he can do on the football field. But then I started thinking even more about Mike Vick and what kept coming back to me. When you think about Michael Vick as a quarterback, he's not that great. He's average at best at quarterback. As strictly quarterback, as dropping back and throwing the ball, he's average at best. This is why, for all you Vick fans that are going to attack me right now, this is why I say he's average. Completion rate, always in the 50%, like 55 and below at that. Yards, he's never averaged 200 yards per game in a season. Never. The most he averaged in a season was like 190. But on average, he averaged 155 yards a game throwing the ball. Now, he threw 20 touchdowns once, which for a quarterback is decent, but that's the most he's ever thrown. It's usually around 16 to 15. Quarterback-wise, Michael Vick is very average. But what sets him apart and what covers up all that is wrong with his quarterback skills, he makes up with his feet. That's why, okay, he only throws 16 touchdowns, and he only has about 2,500 passing yards. But he'll have 1,000 rushing yards and like 10 touchdowns on the ground. So it makes up for it. But as a quarterback, he's very average. Now, a 23-month layoff in prison, I think what was his last season? 2007 or 2006 was his last season? 2006? How's his athleticism now? I know he probably bulked up, but how's his athleticism now? He hasn't played football, so his instinct, how has all that changed now that he hasn't been on the field? Now, and he wasn't reading defenses that well when he was in the league. Now that he was out, how's he reading defenses now? These are all the things that teams are looking in and they got to consider. Now, everybody's saying, let's throw Mike Vick in the Wildcat. Imagine the superior athlete in the Wildcat formation. It makes sense to a point. But the thing about the Wildcat is, the reason why it was so effective is because when it first happened, nobody knew what was going on, basically, because no team practiced against the Wildcat. So the Wildcat is a surprise offense. Now, when you throw Mike Vick into the equation, when you put Mike Vick in the game for these 6-7 plays that you're going to run the Wildcat, teams are looking for it. Yes, it'll work. It'll work sometimes, but more times than not, it won't, because teams are now prepared for the Wildcat when they see Michael Vick in that offense. So using him in a Wildcat doesn't make sense to me. So the question remains, which teams need an average quarterback with superior athletic ability? That's the question right now. All the teams that I thought that he should go to, or that he has a chance to go to, are really saying that they don't want him, basically. Now, I thought the Redskins would be a good fit for Michael Vick, just because the Redskins are not sold on Jason Campbell. So let's take away about 500 yards that Jason Campbell would give you to Michael Vick's 2,500, but you're adding his athleticism and yards on the ground and other things he can do, which will elevate the Washington Redskins, I believe. There's other teams that I've also thought about. Say the Denver Broncos. They have Cal Orton. Now, Cal Orton last year threw for 2,900 yards, even though he got hurt, so he only played and he missed a couple games. But add Mike Vick, his 2,500 passing yards and what he can do on the ground. Therefore, that makes Denver a little bit more explosive. That's just two things that I thought about. What teams are you thinking about that you are thinking about? Alright, that didn't make any sense. But what teams do you think Mike Vick will go to? What teams do you think are interested, and what teams will be a good fit? Now, I don't want to hear any craziness like yesterday on my Twitter page. Somebody asked me, should he go to the Colts and Patriots so they can run the Wildcat formation? First off, the Colts and the Patriots, they have Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. They don't need any gimmicks when you have a Reggie Wayne, when you have a Randy Moss on your team, when you have a Brady and a Peyton Manning throwing the ball. You don't need gimmicks, and you don't need a Michael Vick. So I don't want to hear Patriots and Colts. I don't want to hear teams that has a solid quarterback already behind them. All right, True Sports Talk.
Too big, it's too wide, it's too strong.